Um, it's the purpose of Earth at Risk is to actually bring together talkers and thinkers, to bring together activists and thinkers who um, will speak to the problems that we face at a level that is commensurate with the problems. The genesis for the conference was a few years ago. I was talking to a friend of mine, Randall Wallace, who wanted to. There are so many of those conferences out there that are really not sufficient to the problems we face. Years and years ago, I was at a Pioneers conference. I did a talk there. And I've written something about this, that whenever I go to one of those conferences, I always end up feeling discouraged, defeated, and lied to. And I realized when I gave a talk at one of them, why. I understand you can talk about social change without talking about power. And I don't understand how you can talk about the murder of the planet without talking about psychopathology. And excuse me. Around that same time, I did a talk at a green festival, and I opened my talk by saying, I look around and I see a lot of really groovy hemp shampoos, and I see a lot of nice bath products, but I don't see anything here that would help the salmon. And so those sorts of, what we wanted to do is we wanted to create a conference that really had to do with building a culture of resistance that will help stop this culture from killing the planet, and to bring together some of the people who are thinking and trying as hard as they can to try to stop this culture. So, and how is it related to? Let's back up for a second. That I remember when I was at Pioneers that time, there was this one talk this person gave about how great it is that we're putting ducks into their rice paddies, because the ducks could eat the snails, and the ducks would poop and fertilize the rice paddies, and they would then they could also eat the ducks, and so it was like a win-win situation for everybody. And I'm sitting here in the audience thinking, first off, this is what people did, 600 years ago. So this is not really a major improvement. And second, what happens if the U.S. military wants their land for a base, or if Walmart wants that land for a store? We all know the farmers are driven off their land anyway. So this is, simply talking about the ways, or another way to put this is that there were, 1,000 sustainable cultures on this continent, and tens of thousands of sustainable cultures all over the planet before they were eradicated or dispossessed by this culture. And nobody talked about that. Nobody talked about genocide. Nobody talked about real ecocide. Nobody talked about misogyny. Nobody talked about the imperative to violate that is central to patriarchy. And so what we wanted to bring together a group of people who would talk about those things. It's like a doctor friend of mine says, the first step toward cure is proper diagnosis. And if so many people at so many of these conferences won't even come out against capitalism, much less against civilization, then there's no hope. One more thing I want to say about this, is that I actually came to my work more through, I came to it through writing, but also I came to it through being a frontline environmental activist and a grassroots activist. And there's a huge split between what I call the ecological intelligentsia. There's a huge split between what I call the environmental intelligentsia and actual frontline activists. And a lot of that split is that the people I know who are frontline activists are explicitly working because they want to save this or that piece of ground, or they want to save this or that creature whom they love. And a lot of the environmental intelligentsia, they said explicitly that what they're attempting to do is to save civilization. And that's a huge and dramatic split. All the so-called solutions to global warming that are put forward, what they all have in common is they take industrial capitalism as a given. That will never be a soluble problem because civilization is what's killing the planet. And their loyalty ultimately is to the system itself. It's like even Peter Montague, who used to do the Rachel's newsletter on toxics, he's great. And even somebody as smart as him once said that the reason that carbon sequestration is a bad idea is because if all the carbon leaked out at once, it could, to use his words, quote, disrupt civilization as we know it, end quote. It's like, no, Peter, actually, it could kill life on the planet. And so what Earth at Risk is about is it's Earth at risk. It's not civilization at risk. It's Earth at risk. And it's what are we going to do about it? And it's not officially related to DGR, but deep green resistance. But both of those are about attempts to stop this culture from killing the planet. I mean, just yesterday, I read a news article that the oceans are already acidic enough that shellfish can't, the babies can't start to make shells. And the whole article was about how, well, this is really, it's okay. It's a hassle, but it's okay because now commercial oyster fishermen or commercial oyster growers have to raise the babies in tanks and then they put them out. And the oyster bed people, the oyster farmers, because why is it that every article in the newspaper that talks about some species going extinct has to talk about it economically? That's incredibly narcissistic. And that's part of the reason the world's being killed is because the only ones who matter, the only thing that matters is economics, and the only ones who matter are humans, which is ridiculous and pathetic and murderous. And the other concern I have with it is they didn't even mention the fact that what this means is that wild shellfish can't reproduce. I mean, this is the end. And our response is, at best, sign petitions and put on face paint and, try to recycle. That's insufficient.